Like for many watches, we don't get to keep the product after the review. But would I even like to keep the Garmin Forerunner 265 after the review? I'm gonna answer that question. Hey everyone, and welcome back on the channel. My name is Alex, and today we are reviewing something a bit different. We have a few watch reviews on the channel, and this is one of them, the Garmin Forerunner 265, one of the recent Garmin releases. Although today more Garmin watches are announced, so it feels like they always have new updates up their sleeve. This is one of them, and a big one because the Forerunner line is the main line of watches for running, and the 265 is that middle level type of watch, so I feel like many people would be interested by it. And I was personally very happy to review it. Garmin sent us the watch, but we don't get to keep it. And it's also perfect because sometimes, sending back something that you kind of are attached to after a few weeks makes it a good sign that it's a good product. Or not, if you're not attached to it. So I'm gonna give you very simply some specs, then some positives and then some negatives, and explain whether or not I do enjoy these products. First of all, some specs, and I'm gonna compare the numbers of this watch against the numbers of my personal watch, the Chorus Apex 2 Pro. It's a watch that I will be using after I send this one back, so it makes sense to compare the two and to show you a bit what the numbers say. Price point, they're exactly the same, 499 euros for the Garmin and for the Chorus, for $49 for the two watches, a bit of a difference in the euro versus dollar price. Here, bezel, we're looking at 46.1 millimeters of diameter here on the Garmin, 46.1 as well on the Chorus, so same form factor. Screen resolution, you have the same size of the screen on the two watches, 1.3 inch, but you have a very different pixel count, so how pixelated the screen is. Here you have 416 by 416 pixels, whereas on the Chorus you have 260 by 260, so quite a difference here. And that is not the main difference because of course the main difference is that this is an AMOLED display, so a display that really shows the colors a bit brighter and shows the blacks way more black, and overall gives something that is way more pleasant to watch to the eye compared to those older displays like the Chorus has. 48 grams for the Garmin, 53 for the Chorus Apex 2 Pro. A small difference, although this one feels a bit lighter on the wrist, and that's also because it's a bit more plastic based, whereas the Chorus has a bit more metal on the outside. And that feels lighter, but also feels a bit cheaper, especially those buttons that are not as high-end as the ones on my Chorus, if that makes sense. The bezel here is in plastic, whereas you would have a metal one on the Chorus and also on the higher-end Garmin Forerunner 965 that was released at the same time as this one. This one, the 265, has also a smaller version, the 265S, if I'm not mistaken, for smaller wrists. Speaking of size of wrist, I'm going to show you how it looks on my rather small wrist. I don't have a huge wrist circumference, so here you have it. I don't know if that's too big for you. That's actually something that is reasonable for me in terms of size. I wouldn't go anything bigger than that 46 millimeters bezel. Let's go into the positives and then we'll wrap this up with the negatives. And positives, I have 5 of them. The first one being very obvious, the AMOLED display. I'm a huge fan of it. It makes really a big difference compared to a traditional display, simply because you have all of those colors. Just check that face here, watch face. It's very vivid, very profound. The blacks are really black. You have lots of colors, lots of differences in the colors. It's very stunning, and that's pleasant when you have something on your wrist 24/7. You want to have something that is stunning and that is pleasant to watch, and that's absolutely the case. So I love it. It also feels more like a connected watch, or like Apple Watch, to name it, compared to all the watches which look a bit more sporty and less connected, less 2023 type of products when it goes to tech. AMOLED display is one thing, but resolution, size and touch ability of the screen is another thing. I really like how fluid it is to touch that screen, to swipe through it, to press on it. It feels very natural, very easy to play with, and I really enjoy it. I deactivated it in the sports mode. It's only active in that lifestyle vibe, and that's how I use it, and I really use it. 1.3 inch on a Forerunner 265 is a great thing because again, you can really read easily what you're seeing when you're working out, and also when just like, you know, hanging out and chilling, you can see everything from the weather to any other thing that makes it look more of a smartwatch with that nice big screen. Another positive, and that's more going into the functionalities of it, is the morning report. Every morning you wake up, you have everything on one simple report. Your HRV, so how your heart rate variability was through the night, your sleep, the weather that morning, and a recommendation in terms of workouts. It's very easy. You just wake up, you have 4 screens to scroll through, and you have everything at a glance. I really like it. It's a very nice feature. Battery life, and that's something I was very anxious to put in the negatives because AMOLED displays take a lot of battery life, especially if they're always on. I don't have it always on. I have it, you know, wrist based. So if I turn my wrist, it comes to life. But nevertheless, with more or less one sports activity outdoor every day, so GPS based, I get 8 to 9 days of battery life without any issue, and that's very pleasant. I tend to play it a bit risky, especially when testing those watches. So I go to 100% battery life and then I just empty it to like 1% just because I want to see what's the maximum I can get out of it. 8-9 days is really enough for me. I don't need more. I am a bit pissed when it comes to 1 or 2 days on those very fancy smartwatches, but I don't need more than a week because every week anyways, I charge pretty much everything I have that needs to be charged, and the watch goes also on the charger, so that's really fine. Let's go into the negatives, and it feels like the positives are not many, but many things are just similar to other Garmin watches. So if you're familiar with the Garmin ecosystem, you would find more positives about this watch as well. You know, the app, the ease of using Spotify, paying with your watch, all of that are positives, but not necessarily new with this watch. So I'm not going to spend too much time on them. Let's go into the negatives, or at least what didn't work for me. The first one is the absence of maps for navigation. And I know this is a feature that comes with the Garmin higher end 965, the big brother, big sister of this one. Here you have a point-by-point navigation, which means that you can send maps to your watch. You just won't see them as maps, you will see them as instructions. In 50 meters, turn right, in 40 meters, turn left, run straight for 2 kilometers, and so on. It's fine, it works okay, but if you're in an urban environment with many streets, many tricky, you know, places to look at, you would want to have a watch. And lately I've been traveling quite a bit, and I would love to have a map with me just to navigate in cities, but also outside of cities. Not a big thing, and I know that it's a differentiating factor between this one and the 965, but that's, you know, a negative for me on this one, and probably a reason for me also to go buy the 965 if I were to get a Garmin watch today. The integration with Stride is really bad. It's not made for being integrated with Stride, and I know that the folks at Stride are doing a great job at trying to come up with ideas to have their app, their fields, Connect IQ fields on this watch. It does a kind of a good job, but when you're coming from the Chorus ecosystem where Stride is really integrated, this feels not up to date. And you could say, yeah, that's fine. Now on this one, we have Garmin's wrist-based native power, which really sucks. It's not great simply because it's not consistent with what Stride and Chorus numbers are. And although there is no, you know, single source of truth when it comes to power, this is really off the charts, the Garmin one. I probably wouldn't train with it, and I would love to have a better integration with the tools I'm training with. So yeah, this is a negative for me. Now 2 metrics that seem to never move, and that's really, really annoying: training readiness and HRV. Training readiness, as you can see here, is essentially the score that you have for how ready you are to tackle a workout. It's always in that green zone for me. I would love it to see in that blue, purple, fancy zones to say that I'm really, really ready to train, or even show that I'm poorly recovered and that I cannot train. But it's always here in that moderate readiness. I would love it to move because I know by my training and by how I feel that I'm not always as ready as this says to train, or that sometimes I'm more ready to train than this says. It's annoying. Like, I don't know how the algorithm works, but it just feels like it's not, you know, doing a good job at indicating what it's supposed to indicate. Same goes for the HRV. I know from using the Whoop strap for almost 2 years that your HRV goes really in phases, in cycles, and that depending on your training and many other factors, it will change. My HRV is always the same number every morning with this watch, which could, be a sign of me being healthy and so on, but it's just not the case. I know that my HRV is moving. I have been a little sick and my HRV with the Whoop strap was going really down when I was sick. I have been tapering for a half marathon and a 20 kilometers run, and the HRV wasn't showing it at all. I don't know what's wrong with it, but it's just the same number and it cannot be the same number every day. So something's wrong here and I really didn't like it. So a big question is, would I keep the Garmin Forerunner 265? And if yes, do I consider it good value for money? It's a tricky question because I wouldn't necessarily be ready to pay the premium to get the 965 coming at almost 600 euros. On the other hand, this feels like it lacks some features I would love to have. The maps, maybe the slightly fancier look of the watch with more metal on the bezel, this feeling a bit cheap. Even the run button here on the watch looks a bit cheap, like it's a knockoff, or no, I don't want to have that. I want to have something a bit more premium, but I'm not ready to pay the price for it. So I would say that this is probably the best Garmin you can get if you're an amateur, consistent runner, and if you have the money for it, because it's not cheap. For $49 or 499 euros is not cheap for a watch. And, I'm a big fan of the Coros Pace 2 because it's just 200 euros. You can run with it forever and ever and it will not fail you. It's great AMOLED display. It's great features on it if they work for you and if they show different numbers every day. Otherwise, I feel like something's wrong. Go for it. It's probably the best Forerunner you can buy for your money. I wouldn't buy it. I wouldn't keep it. I have loved and reviewing it, but that's it. It comes to an end and I'm happy to go back to whatever else I have. Or maybe to try other watches from Garmin, the 965 or the new Epix Pros, because I feel they may offer what this one didn't have for me. Thanks for watching this review. I'm gonna put the Epix review here on the screen. If you wanna subscribe, you can also do it right here. Enjoy your run today, enjoy your ride, and go beyond your limits. I'll see you in the next one.